this paper that I'm going to talk about today, titled Identity of Distance, I followed 13 young Black and Latinx women over 3 years. I spent every day, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. with them to write about their transition from life after high school, right? They were all economically marginalized and racially oppressed. They're Black and brown youth. And I wasn't going to write specifically about teen parenthood, but as I spend more and more time with these young people, I actually realized that the stigma of teen parenthood radically negatively transformed the lives of these Black and brown people. That their everyday lives, they spend a good deal of time distancing themselves. That's why I call it identity of distance, distancing themselves not only from young people who are young parents, their peers and community members and sisters, but also this idea of teen parents, right? And they imagine that avoiding teen parenthood actually made them socioeconomically mobile, right? The youth stigmatize their peers and their sisters and community members, arguing that becoming teen parent made them, likely to lead a life in poverty, and they imagined that their parents or some of their neighbors and friends were going to remain poor because they were teen parents. But they didn't just stigmatize their sisters and peers, they also police themselves. So this one young woman came to know actually went to Planned Parenthood to get her birth control, but then she wanted the birth control that went inside her skin. So she told the person working there that, oh, give me the birth control that goes inside my skin, because people like us, what she meant, Latina women are likely to become teen parents. And the more I spoke with her, I realized that her teachers, nonprofit workers were telling her that women like her were likely to become teen parents and burdens on the state, right? So the young people are getting these messages, Black and brown, Black and Latinx young people are getting these messages that they're potential social problems and burdens on the state. Young women also not just stigmatize their peers who are parents, but they also stigmatize potential parents, drawing on these archetypes that are based on racist, classist tropes of what kind of women become teen parents, right? They also then, base their relationship with men in their communities, drawing on these racist stereotypes of what good men look like, right? And these ideas are racialized, based on racialized ideas of young men of color as predators, right? As, potentially unsuccessful people. So this idea of teen parenthood actually, or teen parenthood as a social problem, severely and negatively impacted the lives of the Black and brown women that I spent time with, and it led them to construct this identity of distance from their peers. And what that means is that it created actually cleavages in their own communities, right? Where people who were under the same sort of conditions were, made to or ended up distancing themselves from each other, not realizing that it's a larger structure that impacts all their lives. And after I spent 3 years with the young women, right, who vehemently opposed teen parenthood, stigmatized and distanced themselves from their peers who may have become teen parents, and policed themselves, they were then themselves surprised to see that their lives weren't much different from those who had become young parents. Like, what that means is that these are young people who are don't have the resources to do well in school, who are facing racism and discrimination at their workplace, who can't find jobs because of a racist system. But they tend to think, because of the messages that gets to them, that it's teen parenthood, it's these risk behaviors that's actually holding them back from doing well. And so that was one of the most interesting findings in my study. And so I offer this concept of identity of distance to reflect on the process where marginalized people are made or are left to distance themselves from others in their community to establish themselves as socially mobile or as part of this sort of bourgeois heteronormative white American dream, right? And to distance themselves from potential social problems, to distance themselves from the idea that they are going to eventually become social problems and eventually become burden on the state. So they're made to navigate a oppressive white supremacist system by distancing themselves from others, and that's what I call the identity of distance, and it could potentially be utilized to reflect on similar processes that are at play where oppressed folks or people navigating oppression are made to distance themselves in order to fit into that white bourgeois heteronormative frame.